And happy new year to you. Thanks so much for joining us here on Sullivan Smart Sense. I'm your host, Heather Sullivan. We really appreciate you being with us. And today we're going to talk about such an important topic, but it's a challenge, I know, for a lot of people. We're going to talk about setting your financial goals for the year as we're beginning a brand new year. But I know a lot of you are like, I'm barely making it. We've got super high inflation still. We're just coming out of the holidays. I've racked up credit card debt and all kinds of challenges that people are facing right now. But I have an expert who's going to help us make all of that easy and answer some questions for you to help you set some realistic goals that you can meet so that you have a really successful year. This is one of my favorite financial experts. Please join me in welcoming Kristen Holt. She is the CEO of Green Path, which is a nonprofit credit counseling agency that helps so many people with their finances. So couldn't have gotten a better guest for this topic. Thanks so much for being with us, Kristen.
So happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
You bet. Well, let's dive right in. You heard me talk about some of the challenges that so many people are facing right now. So how would you advise someone to get started with setting their financial goals in a way that sort of deals with this current environment that we're in?
Yes, it really is a tough environment for so many people, really for everyone. And the most important thing to start when setting financial goals is to write them down and include your why. So, for example, if you want to pay off credit card debt, maybe you spent a little bit more on the holidays than you planned and you've got some credit card bills. Don't just say, I'm going to pay off my credit card debt. Write the why. Maybe you've been fighting with your spouse about how much got spent over the holidays and paying it off quickly will help reduce stress in the household. Maybe it's keeping you up at night. Whatever it is, write down not only I want to pay off that credit card debt because I'll be able to sleep better, or because there will be more peace in my household and my marriage will be happier.
I like that. I think having a reason attached to something, going back and looking at that can really help you remember to why you're staying focused on it. So I
Yes,
like that.
and it's proven that if you write down your goals, you're more likely to achieve them. And so I like to write them down and keep them visible, maybe a Post-it note on my computer screen, or I even sometimes use the reminder app in my phone where I'll have it like pop up every day with whatever it is that goal is and what my reminder is. So I have to like think about it every day and see it.
I think people feel overwhelmed sometimes when they are trying to set financial goals, whether it's paying off debt or saving more money. How do you advise someone to set realistic goals that are achievable so that they don't feel so overwhelmed?
Yeah, so thinking about a big goal in small pieces makes it a lot easier to achieve, and you can celebrate those successes along the way. So, for example, maybe you're going to start packing your lunch every day as a way to, or eating leftovers or something like that as a way to try to reduce some spending. And so, thinking about, okay, this week I'm going to eat in or eat out of my refrigerator or eat my leftovers for lunch every single day can be a really manageable goal that is going to contribute to your financial health depending on your situation.
You talked about that you sort of have markers along the way. What are your thoughts on, should we set up a reward system that, if I get through the first quarter of brown bagging my lunch, then I get a reward?
Yeah, that's great, especially if the reward isn't counter to what your goals are. So another way to think about it is savings goals. So like maybe you want to go on vacation because you haven't been able to travel for a long time. Setting that up as a small vacation savings can make the goal like achievable, but also have a reward naturally built in at the end, because at the end you might go on vacation. A great way to improve your savings is to set it and forget it, and essentially like look at your direct deposit for your paycheck, for example, and say $50 a check or $25 a check or whatever it is that works with your household. Put that automatically into a savings plan, savings account through your direct deposit, so that money is like gone and you're paying yourself first. And then you'll be surprised how quickly that will add up in the end. And, it might feel like, well, $25 is not that much money. If you aren't saving today, starting with a $25 savings habit is going to go a long way to improving your financial health.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's dive in and talk about one of probably the most common goals, and that is dealing with debt. So particularly if people have built up credit card debt, from the holidays or what have you, or just trying to, make ends meet during inflation. I know a lot of people have been paying bills with credit cards. How do you get started setting a goal, and how do you get started on chipping away at that?
Yeah, so this is where GreenPath can be a huge resource to everyone who's watching this. We're a national nonprofit. We've been around for over 60 years, and we help people with credit card debt every single day in a way that is manageable, that fits within your household budget, in a way that will save you money, and you will start feeling better, and you're repaying all of your credit card debt. So it is healthy for your credit score as well, because you're not like settling it, or it's not going into collections or anything like that. So calling GreenPath to get started is a huge step you can take. The biggest thing we hear from people is they wish they would have called us sooner. So I really encourage people to reach out. We're going to do a personalized free counseling session for you. Look at your particular household situation, look at what your debt levels are, and give you an action plan that's going to help you take steps forward. If you have credit card debt, we offer a debt management plan, which enables you to pay off that debt in a 3 to 5 year period. And we take the money automatically out of your account and then manage all the payments for you. So oftentimes people might have credit card debt across 5 credit cards or something like that, very common. And so we can kind of take some of that thinking and balancing of all the different due dates and timing and which interest rate is higher and who should we pay first. We can take that for you and manage those payments for you. And you'll be surprised how quickly you can make progress and pay off credit card debt in a really healthy. And, it's not easy. You have to make the payments, like you have to adjust your budget, but we're there with you along the way to support you and make sure that you can make everything work.
What are the changes people can make or usually need to make? Because I'm sure if they're looking at these debt payments, they're like, well, I just don't have enough money to make these payments. How are you saying I'm going to be able to do this? What kind of changes do people generally need to make, or can they make, to be able to afford making those debt payments?
Yeah, so through a debt management plan, we're able to renegotiate the payments and often get the payment amount to be lower because we're able to get the interest rates reduced. So that is step one, that we can get those payments under control and into a more manageable place. Then we're going to work with you on your overall household budget. And sometimes the first step people need to take is just writing down and keeping track of where everything's going. Sometimes it's just hard to know, like, where is the money going? Or I took $100 out of the ATM. Where did that cash go? And so helping to get that kind of budget in place, or just discipline, I guess, to keep track of things. And often that can go a long way, where you realize, oh, I forgot I bought this, or I didn't realize I spent money on this. And that might be something that you can reduce.
What are common things that you suggest to people as ways to cut down their spending, subscriptions, entertainment? What kinds of things are maybe easier ways people can start trying to trim their spending?
Yeah, those monthly recurring bills that you don't pay attention to that might go on a credit card. There's a reason that companies want you to do that, because then, it's only $10 a month. Well, if you have 5 of those $10 a month subscriptions, that's going to add up pretty quickly. So looking at all the things that are on there, you might be able to get a less expensive internet plan. You might be able to get a less expensive cell phone plan. Sometimes people go on family cell phone plans, for example, like I have my parents on my cell phone plan, and you're allowed to do that. Even though we're not in the same household, it can get those costs down, and those little bits can add up over time. So those are some things that you don't even have to make any real significant changes. It's just a matter of taking the steps to change the plan that you're on, or maybe get rid of a subscription that you're not using, or maybe you don't need every single streaming service for your TV. Maybe you could cut down to your favorite show's on. So things like that can go a long way.
I like that. Those are good practical steps I think people can take. Let's talk about something that's become very popular just in recent years, and that's the buy now, pay later of financing options. These are these options for folks that are watching that come up when you're shopping, both in store but often online, that allow you to make payments. But what's happening is sometimes people are agreeing to too many.
Right.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about, if, again, now that the holiday season's over, people might be going, oh, I did too many of these. What's your advice in terms of handling a situation like that?
Yeah, so there's a reason companies use those, and they're usually to get you to buy something that you may not need. It might be something you really want, but it's not usually something that you need. And it is really scary because you can end up with a lot of these plans, and they're often drawing straight out of your checking account. So the worst thing that can happen is that you overdraw your account and you start getting hit with, those NSF fees from your bank. Oh, that's just terrible. So I would say, number one, if you've already taken out those plans, get a good inventory of what you have and when those payments are coming out to make sure that the money is in your account. We do have the ability to help people with some of those creditors as well. So again, I would encourage people to call GreenPath and we can talk that through. But you want to get a handle on what you did. Maybe there's something you could return. Maybe if you bought it and you're like, yeah, maybe I didn't really need that thing. There might be an opportunity to return it and get a credit back so you don't have so many of those buy now, pay later payments coming out. But yeah, it's a great tool that's out there that often is getting us to buy things that might not fit into our budget. And that's why they do it, because they're like, oh, it's only $10 a week. That sounds good, but you get a few of those going and you can really run into trouble.
Yeah, they're going to keep coming, and you can find them on everything these days. So yeah. Let's talk a little bit about, people both need to create an emergency savings fund, but they also have debt, or maybe they need to save for buying a house. How do you choose what to do first, and try and reach both of those goals?
Yeah, so this is where you want to assess your situation and look at what your interest rates are. So interest rates on savings are going up, which is great, but interest rates on credit cards are also going up, which is not great. And so you probably want to prioritize paying down that credit card debt first, because it's probably going to be charging you interest rates at 3 to 5 to maybe 10 times more than what you're getting on your savings account. You still want to try to put some money into savings. And as I said in the beginning, maybe you can even just find some really small amount to start taking directly out of your check and putting into that savings account. Maybe it's a savings account at a totally different bank or credit union than the one you use every day, so that money's not like so easily transferable. And just getting started with a small goal will help. But I would prioritize the credit card debt if you've got that, and then savings. But ideally, you can do a little bit of both.
What would you recommend for how much people should save when they can focus on that emergency savings? How much should people set aside these days?
Yeah, so a general rule of thumb is to have 3 to 6 months of your living expenses in that emergency fund. And so that's a good goal to have. But even if you don't have that today and don't feel like you can get there tomorrow, I still encourage people to start.
Okay, absolutely. Well, I think we've answered a lot of the basic questions. This I want to show is the website, by the way, greenpath.com. If people do want to reach out and get some credit counseling, how can they go about reaching out with you guys, and just talk a little bit about how it works?
Yeah, so go to our website, greenpath.com or .org. We are a nonprofit. Websites are funny with all that terminology, but we are always open, and you can call us at 800-550-1961, and we can go through your situation right away. So if you called right now, we would be there, and we can look at your personal situation. How it works, as I said, it's free. We get grant funding and other funding. You talked to us about our funding that we received from USAA in the beginning of 2022 that helps us provide this free service. And we're going to look at your situation, and we're going to understand what your goals are. If you want to get out of debt, or maybe you do want to buy a house, but you've got other things that are in the way of being able to achieve that goal. And we're going to do a soft pull of your credit report, which does not affect your credit in any way, but it gives us a view to what's actually on the credit report. Sometimes people don't remember everything that they've taken. That's very common. And so we can get a handle of everything that's on there, and then work with you to come up with a plan that will help you get to a better situation depending on what your goals are.
And you touched on this earlier, but in general, how long or how quickly can someone really turn their situation around?
It really depends on what they can afford. And oftentimes people finish faster than they thought. One of the reasons is we'll start with a typical, or like we'll figure out what's the amount you can afford to pay, and maybe it'll be tied to when you get paid. So let's say you get paid every 2 weeks. We might take out $200 every 2 weeks. Again, depends on your situation and your debt. and we'll start paying that towards your creditor. So if you start off with some, say, $10,000 in credit card debt that you're trying to pay off, once the first card is gone, we'll keep paying that $200 every 2 weeks. And so it is a snowball effect that as long as you keep making the same payments, you'll be able to pay it off faster than if you once that credit card's paid off and then you say, oh, I'm not going to give you that money towards that card anymore. We don't recommend you do that. We try to keep the amount steady, and then it just accelerates over time. And then oftentimes people might come into some money, say, for example, a tax refund in April. And so that maybe that tax refund will work with you to say, hey, why don't you take a chunk of that and put it towards the debt, and that will make it go even faster.
Great idea and great advice for all of our viewers out there. Thank you so much, Kristen. We really appreciate you being with us. And I think you've given people a lot of practical ways to set their financial goals this year and hopefully help them to stick to them so they achieve those goals as well. Yeah. I appreciate it.
Let's make this a New Year's resolution that sticks.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thanks for being with us.
Absolutely. Happy New Year.
You too. And thank you so much for being with us. We hope we gave you some great advice and steps that you can go out and take today. Set those goals, keep them practical, but also hold yourself accountable and let us know how that's going, and let us know any other financial topics you'd like for us to cover here on Sullivan Smart Sense. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.